welcome guys. Today I'm starting 19c-DBA workshop. So in that today I will cover introduction part where I will discuss about the data information, database management system, relational database management system, object relational database system, what is the relational model, and what are the databases we have in the industry, and which one is number one, which one is number two, and where we use the databases. So these are the things I will cover today. So let's begin. So these two terms are basically, people say that these are the same, but according to me, these are the not same the word, like data and information, both are different things. So if I tell about the data, so basically the data is raw and unorganized facts and figures, you can say, that is called as data. And information is basically process, organize, or structure data, that is called as information. So basically, whenever we store the data in the database or relational database, model databases, we use to store the data in terms of tables, and tables reside in the table space, and table space contains the data file. So these are the things which involve when any user stores the data. So this is the basic difference between data and information. Next thing, this is the engineering model. Why we use to store the data, important, why the information is important. Basically, in decision making or analysis, we require the data. So data is facts and information is collective data or structured data. And the basis of knowledge, we process the data or we took the decision, in the marketing strategy, you can say. So this relational or this engineering model consists of data and information. Excuse me. Now, data is growing very fastly. If suppose in 1970, nobody expect that gigabyte size data will be there. It was dream on that time, but now we have terabyte, and even we have petabyte databases. So these are the normal storage sizes which are there in our database industry. But we have exabyte, we have zettabyte, and we have utabyte. So in future, these words will be used in terms of data volume. So basically, this table is generated or explained by Raw Williams, where if I talk about the byte, so basically byte is the volume of data in a single file or file system, and that unit is called as byte. So bit, byte, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte. I think we know till terabyte or petabyte, but right now we have exabyte, zettabyte, and utabyte, which is future of the database, because data is growing very fastly. That's why we have big data concept in the IT industry, right? And now come to this important concept, which is the base of this course, database management system. So database management system is basically a software. So our Oracle server or Oracle software is basically our database management software, which manage the data, which control the storage, which control the retrieval of the data. So that data basically managed by the database management software. So that's why whenever we required any database, we need to install the Oracle database server or Oracle server software, and then we create the database, and then we create the table, and then we stores the data. Okay. Excuse me. Now, database management system has three things: kernel code, repository of metadata, and query language. So these three things are very important element of your database management system in your organization. So basically, kernel code is manage memory and storage. So in terms of Oracle server, we have two component of Oracle server. One is memory and one is storage. Memory we called as instance and storage we called as database. So we will discuss later on. But in terms of kernel code, this is the definition. And repository of metadata, basically a data dictionary which contains all the information of your database, which has your database information as well as user information. So this data dictionary is also very important. And the third element is query language. So query language is basically a SQL query, structured query language, which actually used to access the data from the database. Okay, so these three things are very important element of database management system. Excuse me. Now database application. So basically through database application is there, and it is a software program which basically interact with the database to access the data and manipulate the data. So this is the work of database application. So that's why we have ERP application, we have other ERP applications from different vendors. Okay, so that's why we have ERP DBA also, which manage the application, and core DBA basically manage the database. Excuse me. Now, the first generation of database management system includes two things. One is hierarchical structure and another one is network structure. So hierarchical database organize the data in a tree structure where each parent record has one or more child record, okay, to the structure of a file system. So some database use hierarchical structure, some database use network structure. So network data structure is similar to hierarchical structure, but the one thing is different, which is many to many relationship, which is exist in network. That's why it is called as network database. Got it? Now come to the base of the every database mostly, that is relational model. So this theory is given by EF Cod in 1970, which is based on mathematical set theory, where a relational model of data for large shared data banks, and it is mostly used by every database model. So all my database model or whatever we studied, it is based on the relational model. So relational model means where we have a relation. So relation is where between the tables, right? So relational database is a database that basically conform conforms to the relational model. So whenever we are using any relational database, it is based on relational model. So it has structure things, it has operation things, and it has integrity rules. So it has also three things. So what is structure? Structure is basically well-defined object which stores your data so that later on you can access the data from the database. So every data which you are storing, that should be in structure format. And then operation means whenever you want to manipulate anything in existing database, you will do the operations like DML operations where you update, delete, modify. Okay. And then we have a certain rules which we apply on the data in the database so that corruption cannot happen. So rule basically we apply in terms of constraint. I hope you know that constraint like primary key, foreign key, null key, not null key, like that. Okay, unique key. So these are the three important things which consist, which is there in your relational model. So a relational database basically is stored in a set of single relation, and relation is a set of tuples, and tuple is an unordered set of attribute values. Basically, we called as row. So every table has a two-dimensional presentation of your relation in the form of rows, that is tuples, and columns, that is attributes. So each row in a table has the same set of columns like employee ID, name, date of birth, joining date, salary, department ID, like that. So a relational database is a database that stores data in relations. Relation means tables. So suppose a relational database could store information about company employees in an employee table, department table, and a salary table. So these are the three tables which we use, suppose in human resource department. So that is the relational database model. So if you see this diagram, so here there is a first table, that is employees table. So employees table has a employee ID, first name, last name, email, phone number, hire, job ID, salary, department, commission, manager, department ID. Now this employee table is related to department, where relation established between the department ID of the employee table and the department ID of department table. So, and the basis of same column relation established, and then your department has a relation with location, then country, then region, and simultaneously employees has a relation with job history. Suppose any employees is going from organization, then that data will go into the job history, and that job history table is attached to the jobs, and also employee table directly attached to the jobs table. So this is the HR schema we studied in Oracle SQL language course. So that's why I took this diagram. So that's why Oracle database model is based on relational database model, where we have excuse me, a relation between many tables. Now, another concept is RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. So the relational model is the basis for a relational database management system. So RDBMS basically moves the data into a database that will store the data, and later you can retrieve that and through the application, and then you can manipulate it. Basically, you means user. And RDBMS has two elements or two types of operation. One is logical operations and another one is physical operation. So what is logical operations? Logical operation means suppose an application requests an employee for his name or his address, then for to store the record of a table. After the information user gather, then it will he will do the physical operation. Then it will he will insert the data into that table of employee. So that operation is called as physical operation. So that's why RDBMS has two types of operation. One is logical and another one is physical. As an example, as I said, application queries a table, and the database may use an index. That is the later concept. I hope everyone knows index. If you don't know, then I will discuss that in a later session. So where it will find the data and from the from the table, and then it will go into the memory, and then it will transfer the to the user. So RDBMS basically is stores and retrieves that data by the physical operations. And Oracle database is an RDBMS database. So RDBMS basically implement the object-oriented feature. So now we called as ORDBMS, Object Relational Database Management System, where object is involved, and Oracle database has extended the relational model to an object relational model, so that it can store a different kind of complex business model in the relational database. So now these days we call it as object relational database management system in terms of RDBMS. Now, what are the benefits of database management system? That first one is data consistency, and second one is data redundancy, then concurrency, then integrity, then security, and then independence. So if you are using database management system, you will get these are the benefits. So data uh, if data concurrency means Oracle data should reflect the most up-to-date status of the data to user. If more than one user can access, so that lock will be there. So locking is basically giving the consistency of the data. Suppose two user are updating the record and third user is want to access the data. So third user will get the old value, but the other two user who are updating the record, they will see the new record, right? After the commit and when the dirty buffer flush to the data file, then another user, if suppose he is firing the select query, then he will see the new data. Got it? So that is basically a consistency. And redundancy means it allows managing a common repository that many people use same data. Okay, so that's why redundancy is there. So if you have 100 user can access the same table or different table. And then data concurrency. Data concurrency means database management system profile multiple user access to the same data consistently. That's why we have one quotation: readers will not wait for writers, and writer will not wait for readers. Okay, and then we have data integrity, means whenever is deleting the data, all data belonging to it must be deleted. Okay, so that is data integrity. And data security means unauthorized user cannot access the data from the database. Through username and password we can put the security and other features. We have wallet where we have transparent TDE we use for the columns where data will be transferred into the key format, so that hacker cannot access the data from the data column of that particular table. And then database independency or data independency means you have structured data in your database. So data independence will not affect. So these are the benefits which you get from the database management system if you are using. Got it? Now, what are the most popular databases we have? So I have one table I have downloaded today, and yeah, so this is the database ranking system where you can see that top 10 databases. So top 4 databases we have Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, Postgres, all based on RDBMS. So that's why RDBMS is most popular. So Oracle and MySQL both are the proprietary of Oracle. So almost I'm seeing this table or report every month, which is generated from 2017. So Oracle and MySQL is one and second place. Then third place is SQL Server. Then Postgres and MongoDB is a document databases that is based on NoSQL. So it is populated these days. Then IBM DB2, then Redis, then Elasticsearch, then SQLite, then Cassandra. So if you want to stable your job, you have to learn 2, 3 databases for your growth purpose. So suppose if you know Oracle, then you can go for MySQL and MongoDB as well as SQL Server. If you are SQL Server DBA, then you can go for MySQL as well as MongoDB. So like that, you can add one commercial database, one open source database, and one NoSQL database in your CV. Now, Oracle is most popular. As I said, MySQL is open source database, but now it is a proprietary of Oracle. And SQL Server, it is the proprietary of Microsoft. Postgres, it is a open source database again. And MongoDB, it is a open source data document database, which is based on NoSQL. It is the leading player in NoSQL database, and it is written in C++. So I'm just giving the overview. Okay, so this table is very important. And now where we use databases, so mostly we have banks and telecoms, then we have railways, then we have airlines, then we have hospitals, insurance, retails, online retails, universities, and then human resource of every company where employees record will be stored in terms of tables, and then production where we have stock and finance related product. So these are the areas where we use the databases. Okay, so today I'm stopping here.